This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Bike lane controversy. Premier Tim Houston says he will be forced to act if Halifax Council goes ahead and makes Morris Street one-way. Thirsty crops. Local farmers try to cope with this stretch of hot, dry weather. And construction woes. A Halifax business owner complains an ongoing road project is driving customers away.
After another scorcher, hot and humid again today across much of the province. Relief is on the way, but that could come with some unsettled conditions. We'll talk about thunderstorms and then more comfortable temperatures with your full forecast coming up.
The Premier of Nova Scotia says his government will use new powers to overturn Halifax Council's decision on a local bike lane. Tim Houston says the move to turn Morris Street to one-way for vehicles raises safety and economic concerns. The CBC's Haley Ryan has more.
A week after the Premier of Nova Scotia blasted Halifax Council's approval of a future bike lane, he has given them an ultimatum: abandon the plan or his government will overturn it anyway. Premier Tim Houston posted a letter to social media Wednesday night addressed to Halifax Mayor Andy Fillmore and councillors. He asked them to reverse last week's decision on the Morris Street bike lane in the South End that would make the street one-way for cars. Houston says he was disappointed that council dismissed public safety and economic impact concerns with a, quote, simple shrug of the shoulders. The Port Authority has said they are worried the move could impact truck traffic from the container terminal. Emergency Medical Care Incorporated, which operates the province's emergency health services, like ambulances, also opposes the one-way change. They say it could create delays in reaching health emergencies or getting to hospitals.
They were at the table, all those groups, all those partners, and all of a sudden now we're saying they have concerns. There is a disconnect. What's happened? What's changed?
Some councillors say Houston's letter is really about something else.
Well, it's disappointing. I think it's not so much about the Morris Street bike lane as about strong mayor powers.
Houston has said he is open to giving the Halifax mayor powers to make decisions without a majority of council and veto some bylaws. Fillmore voted against changing Morris Street to one-way, but was overruled by a majority vote. If council refuses to change course on Morris Street, Houston says his government will use Bill 24 for the first time. It allows the Public Works Minister to overrule municipalities on transportation issues. Provincial NDP leader Claudia Chender says if Houston is interested in tackling congestion, he should invest in transit and release a long-awaited report that outlines a transportation plan for the capital city. The Premier has given Halifax Council a deadline of August 6th, the day after their next meeting. Haley Ryan, CBC News, Halifax.
An air and water search is underway for a woman believed to have fallen overboard from the ferry between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. RCMP say 41-year-old Ping Chang was last seen aboard the MV Blue Petite from North Sydney to Port aux Basques early Wednesday morning. Police searched the ferry when it arrived in Newfoundland, and the woman was not on board. The Joint Rescue Coordination Centre and Coast Guard are also involved in the search. It's concentrated in the water south of Port aux Basques Point, with one Coast Guard ship retracing the ferry's path between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. The spokesperson for Marine Atlantic declined to comment. Well, this streak of hot weather is making things difficult for some Nova Scotia growers. As the CBC's Jane Sponigal tells us, hot and dry conditions mean farmers are working long hours to keep their crops healthy.
And that damn burn in there, that just discourages you, you know?
Andy Vermeulen is inspecting his strawberry plants near Canning, Nova Scotia. The plants basically grow hydroponically, so they're still flourishing in the dry conditions. But the new leaves are burning in the hot, humid weather.
Lots of fruit coming on here, but you need those new leaves to be producing if we're going to get fruit for the next 3 months here, because we're picking into October.
Vermeulen takes us to a soybean field that shows the dramatic impact.
They have a long ways to grow yet. They'll be about this tall when they're ready. But you can see over on this side here how much the drought has affected them so far. These plants are all stunted because they haven't had enough moisture.
Yes, drought. Agriculture Canada shows most of the province was abnormally dry at the end of June, with a few areas experiencing moderate drought conditions. That includes Halifax, which saw its 9th driest June on record, according to Environment and Climate Change Canada. While some areas have seen substantial rain so far this July, many communities have been very dry. So far this month, Kentville has reported just over 20 millimeters of rain, but almost all of that fell on just one day, July 8th.
It's a drought in the valley. That's what we have. If you have water and you can put on water, then you'll minimize some of the effects of the drought.
Close by in Centreville, Ian Newcomb is keeping a close eye on his corn. He says conditions are just getting worse. 15 years ago, there might be 3 weeks of hot, dry weather. Now it's 10 to 12 weeks, and it's drier earlier.
We grow pumpkins. Normally you don't irrigate a pumpkin. You don't have to. You catch a rain and it'll grow. I'm irrigating pumpkins. And if you look at $150 an acre to irrigate a pumpkin, and you got to do it multiple times, then it shrinks your ability to make money.
Newcomb and Vermeulen could get a break from the intense irrigation schedule. There's some rain in the forecast for Friday and Sunday. Jane Sponigal, CBC News, Canning.
And we've got Jay Scotland in with the weather, and boy, oh boy, that humidity today, very soupy.
Yeah, it's been day after day after day, and it just seems to feel just that much worse every day if you're not a fan of the heat and the humidity. If you're on vacation, you can get to a beach, find a nice patio, maybe spend some time by a pool. It's all right, but context is everything when it comes to the heat. And today, for a lot of folks, certainly the folks that are working outdoors, man, oh man, relief is on the way, though. There's a look at our daytime highs today from across the province. Now, 26 in Halifax. It felt about 35, 36 with the Humidex. And you did see temperatures up to 30, near 40 in some areas with the Humidex again today. Now, relief is coming. It is in the form of cold front. We have humid air in place. That means showers arriving later this evening, overnight, and for eastern areas likely into tomorrow morning, we have that risk for not just showers, but some isolated thunderstorms that could see some locally heavier pockets of rain and some strong winds. Should begin to clear out through the afternoon, though, and we'll see that wind brisk switch to the northwest, which will help to flush out all of that humid, soupy air.
Yes,
Amy.
some welcome relief. All right, thanks for that, Jay. The underground coal mine in Donkin, Cape Breton is for sale. The mine shut down 2 years ago after a pair of roof falls. It was allowed to reopen more than a year ago after increasing the safety measure for workers. The mine is run by Cameron Colliery, which is owned by the U.S.-based group Klein Group. The company says the sale is in the early stages. The Nova Scotia government says it intends to increase the use of wood for heating and constructing public buildings. The province made the announcement at a sawmill in Elmsdale Thursday. They did not provide many details, including costs and timelines. The announcement comes just days after Northern Pulp said it was abandoning plans for a new pulp and paper mill in Queens County. But the Minister for Natural Resources says it's not the reason for today's announcement.
This is one of many things that have been in the breadbasket to work on for low-grade wood fiber in our forestry sector. This has been being worked on for some time. This is not in response to the announcement of Northern Pulp. This is actually in response to the economy and the sector of forestry in Nova Scotia.
Officials with Ledwidge Lumber and the startup Mass Timber Company were on hand to endorse the province's plans. Ongoing construction on Halifax's Dutch Village Road is impacting local businesses. To help soften the blow, one organization is calling for a construction mitigation fund. The CBC's Juliana Griot explains.
Construction dust, debris, large machinery, and unfinished streets have become the new normal here on Dutch Village Road, where this small business is located. Inside Happy Pets, it's a much quieter atmosphere. But the co-owner says it's even quieter than usual.
Since April, our daily sales were starting to go down, and since July, that kind of was a bit more steep. So we're seeing almost half what we would normally see in a day.
Ashik says construction has made it hard for clients to access the store, and many are generally avoiding the area. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says 7 in 10 businesses in the country have been impacted by construction in recent years, often experiencing a decline in sales. The Federation is calling for a construction mitigation fund here in Nova Scotia.
We see Calgary, Montreal all have construction mitigation funds in place. Now, the little bit of nuance here in Nova Scotia is that municipalities don't have the authority to provide direct financial support to small businesses. So we would need the province to get on board and make amendments to the Municipal Governments Act as well as the HRM Charter to provide that authority to municipalities.
Aside from money, Robertson says open and ongoing communication with businesses can help them mitigate losses. Ashik says the city gave him ample notice of the construction, but he did not expect it to be this disruptive.
We knew that we would lose the parking spots on Dutch Village Road, but we weren't aware or sure that we would also lose the parking spot on the side streets. So that was a bit challenging. So going forward, if there were like a bit more better communication.
Ashik says the upgrades to the street are ultimately for the greater good. He just hopes his clientele remains loyal until the end of the year, when the municipality says construction is expected to end. Juliana Grillo, CBC News, Halifax.
The community of Parrsboro is sharing their history to help grow local tourism. The Mi'kmaq Merchants, Missionaries and Mariners walking tour started in the town this summer and gives tourists a history lesson on the area. The CBC's Luke Ettinger went along for a walk.
He died in that house at 103, very likely the oldest active sailing captain in the history of the world. My name is Jeff Orr. I'm the tour guide for this historic walking tour, which we've named Mi'kmaq Merchants, Missionaries and Mariners. To me, it's about identity. Like when I look at the old buildings, I don't think, oh, these buildings are old and decrepit. I think how they inspire me to think about how the past is potentially shaping the future. Parrsboro has an incredible opportunity with the geopark, with the history, with the incredible geography and geology of the area to attract locals to see the area and take pride in it, and also for individuals visiting here as tourists to maybe dwell a little bit, spend some money here, but take in and soak in the beauty of the area.
The walking tour is so incredible because it connects us with people along our history to modern day, and particularly it connects our built history and our history with the ocean, which the way we're connected in the ocean today is very different. You know, at one point people's livelihoods depended more upon it, and I would say now our lives depend more upon it.
As a kid, I saw tons of lumber and ships coming from all over the world, and over time that disappeared. This historical tour has been really helpful in understanding where we were and what we could be. It used to be you could go from Truro to Amherst without, you had to go through Parrsboro. That doesn't happen anymore. The train is gone, the ships are gone, and so there's an effort to encourage a lot of that industry and pride in the community to come back.
Oh, I love it so much because it's calling up memories of my own, like about my grandfather seeing the bills looking for blacksmith, about my dad traveling, and I'm remembering so many stories from the past that were wonderful. So yes, having a tour in any community in Nova Scotia, please tap into your older people or your researchers and bring up your history.
I partnered on this with the Historical Society. We have the Ottawa House, which is the epicenter, the jewel of our Historical Society, but we want, I think, to think about the town, the old town, which has many stories, and I've been motivated to leverage the finances that are gained from this tour to revitalize the historic signs of the community.
Yes, a live look at the bridge through the lens of our harbor cam. Jay's up next with the weather forecast. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Access Wellness Nova Scotia. Book your appointment today for free, confidential mental wellness support.
All right, Jay's back with his full forecast. And Jay, you were talking about some possible thunderstorms.
Yeah, and that's as we watch for that wind to kind of veer around to the northwest, ushering in cooler air. That's the cold front that'll be moving through. And you got cool, dry air moving into an area that's already occupied by this very warm, hot, and soupy, very humid air. It's like oil and water. These two air masses just really don't mix, and that is the fuel. Humidity is the fuel for thunderstorms. So there is the potential we could be looking at some locally stronger thunderstorms tonight, and a good chance of thunderstorms just kind of working from the northwest to more southern and eastern areas as we move through the overnight hours, and even through a good chunk of tomorrow as well for eastern parts of the province. And that's as the track of the cold front will be following that direction, kind of moving in from the northwest to the southeast. And we'll time that out for you in just a moment. There's the daytime highs we saw today. Humidex values had us feeling low 30s to even around 40 for some areas. So it has just been day after day after day of hot and soupy weather. I know the rain is a welcome thing as well. We've had elevated fire risk. We've also been contending with, for our growers, our farmers, very dry conditions for many areas. June was dry. July for a lot of places has been very dry so far as well. So the rain, a welcome thing, but of course, you could be hearing a rumble of thunder pretty early into the morning hours tomorrow. You may get an early wake up. So just remember, when thunder roars, head indoors, and with those thunderstorms, some heavier rain, some stronger winds could be an issue as well. We're seeing some very strong thunderstorms already working across New Brunswick. So as we look through the overnight hours tonight, you see pretty clear conditions across the province now. There's the stronger thunderstorms moving into parts of northwestern New Brunswick. As the evening progresses, we'll watch for the clouds to begin to increase. Some fog patches are possible as well. The wind will be picking up, which mitigates the risk of widespread fog, but we could be looking at some fog patches later this evening and overnight as well. To start the day tomorrow, you can see already the thunderstorms working out of the South Shore area fairly early on this forecast model. There's the cold front, so it's a strong southwest wind ahead of it, gusting 20 to 40. Coastal areas over 50 kilometers per hour. In behind it, it's a west and then northwest wind. That will flush out the humidity, but that wind will also be brisk, 15 to 30, gusting well over 40K for some areas. So as the cold front moves east, you'll see that thunderstorm risk as we look to Port Hawkesbury up into Cape Breton. You could be looking at your thunderstorm risk late morning into the early afternoon before it finally begins to wind down. And then we'll see that sunshine returning late afternoon into the early evening across the province, and actually earlier for that clearing trend for the South Shore. Now into Saturday, starting out mainly sunny. We will see maybe a few passing clouds developing through the day. We'll see a mix of sun and cloud, but I think leaning more towards the sunnier side of that mix, and Saturday is going to be quite comfortable. Good chance late Sunday for some more much-needed shower activity as well to help with these very dry conditions that we've been experiencing across the province. So late this evening, you've got that risk into the South Shore region up towards Kentville. Overnight, working Bridgewater, Truro, Halifax, and then as we look into the early morning hours, this is where New Glasgow, LA Falls, as we look towards Sheet Harbor into Port Hawkesbury, you've got that chance of showers and thunderstorms kind of into more of the morning hours for you, and even later for folks further east into Cape Breton. And you'll see that clearing trend as a result occurring a little earlier for more southern and western areas. Good chance those showers could linger into the early afternoon for the Halifax area up towards the hub in Truro. And then further east, you're likely to see those showers persisting through the afternoon, even into the early afternoon for that thunderstorm potential, Port Hawkesbury and Sydney. So once the thunderstorms and the rain move through, we see a very blustery but drier northwesterly wind setting up, and that's what gets rid of this very soupy air mass that is in place. So we're going to flush out the humidity with the switch to that northwest wind after the cold front passes. So a little unsettled as it moves through. In some cases, could see some stronger thunderstorms here or there, but once it does move through, I think it'll be worth it. The payoff will be much more comfortable temperatures and conditions as we head into the weekend. So tomorrow, the timing will be different depending on where you're at. So you're likely already clearing fairly early in the day, mid-morning as we look down towards Yarmouth, for example. Not likely seeing that thunderstorm risk until mid-morning, diminishing for the Halifax area, showers diminishing by early afternoon, and it just lasts a little bit longer. It takes a little longer to work through for eastern areas. We'll see a mix of sun and cloud, but mainly sunny for much of the day on Saturday. Some showers arriving late in the day on Sunday, and as we take a look at the long-range outlook, it's a little bit below seasonal, which I think after the last few days will be a welcome thing as we take a look at that long-range outlook. Amy.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right. Thank you, Jay. We're back after this. The 2025 Halifax Pride Festival is underway, and for a look at what's happening over the next week and a half, I'm joined by Fiona Carr, Executive Director of the festival. So lots of stuff set up already. Walk me through what's going to be happening tonight and tomorrow, first of all.
Tonight we've got Melanation, our QT BIPOC showcase, which was started by El Noir, a local drag queen, and this year's headliner is Jaylene Time from Canada's Drag Race. The rest of the show will be filled out with local drag performers. There's music, there's some burlesque, there's a bit of everything. It's a $12 suggested donation at the door, and it's going to be a really, really great time.
And what about Friday?
Friday we've got The Bump, so that's our big drag show, headlined by Detox this year from RuPaul's Drag Race. Also more local performers, El Noir, Onomatopoeia, Steph Peaks, tons and tons of local drag, and it goes until 2 a.m. Also $12 at the door. Really, really great deal if anyone wants to come on down.
Of course, one of the big events every year is the parade itself. How big is it going to be, do you think?
It's going to be big. Emphasis on the B. This year we've got, I believe, 128 entries. About 100 of those are floats, so we expect between 8,000 and 10,000 people in the parade, and then spectators. We usually estimate around 20,000 lining the streets, so it's going to be big. It's going to be hot, I'm sure, so everyone should come prepared with sunscreen.
And some water.
And water, yeah, lots of water.
So you have an event involving the Wanderers this year. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we're partnering with them on their Pride game on July 25th. So we'll be there, we'll be at the game, we'll be at their pre-game tailgate. We'll have some drag queens playing some games. People can come win some prizes. And then the game is Pride themed, so we partner with them. We help out a little bit with some of the logistics, like the anthem and things like that. And then they also give a donation to an organization in the community. So it's a really great partnership. We started it last year, and we're super excited to see it continue.
Some parts of the U.S. and even parts of Canada have seen drops in sponsorship, drops in funding, given the political climate. I guess your reaction to that?
It's sad. I think it is somewhat expected. I think after the election, we all braced for it. Even before the election, I think we all kind of knew it was coming. I think the hardest part is seeing it spread up here, seeing companies who are doing business in both Canada and the U.S. kind of bend to their U.S. counterparts and what they want, even if that isn't necessarily what their employees want. So it's sad to see our resources being taken away, and it means we have to lean more on our community, and we don't want to ask our community to pay to access their own spaces, because the space is for them. And so it's going to continue, I think, to be a challenge for all of us.
Are you noticing that here in Nova Scotia as well?
We're definitely not noticing it as much as they are in bigger cities, in Toronto and Vancouver, but we did see a few sponsors step away. We weren't told explicitly that that is the reason, but they both operate in America, so we kind of made an assumption. But I do expect we might see it pick up more in future years. It may not be sponsors walking away, but it might just be people not willing to come to the table to begin with to have conversations about partnerships. So it's something we're just continuing to kind of take day by day, I think.
Well, why is Pride important?
Pride is important for so many reasons. I think Pride serves a different purpose for so many people. I think right now creating space is the most important part. In places specifically like Halifax, we have growing queer spaces, queer businesses, but overall this is the largest queer space people have to access. And I wish it could be more than 11 days out of the year, but just creating space where people can be themselves and can be safe and know that they're safe and protected is what's most important right now.
So your advice for folks who want to participate in these next 11 days?
Drink lots of water. Bring your sunscreen. We encourage folks coming to our site to leave bags at home. You can get in quicker if you don't have a bag. We do have lots of water on site, so if anyone wants to bring reusable water bottles, we have free water for folks. Mainly just take care of each other. Look out for your friends. Make sure everyone's being safe. We're going to do our part to make sure everyone is safe, but yeah, I'd say be very cognizant of the weather.
Yes. All right, well, best of luck and have a great time.
Thank you.
Coming up, First Nations leaders from across the country met with Prime Minister Mark Carney to discuss their concerns about Bill C-5. And nearly a year after wildfires scorched part of Jasper National Park, campers are returning to an unfamiliar landscape. Prime Minister Mark Carney has met with First Nations leaders in Gatineau, Quebec, where he promised to listen to their concerns about the federal government's major projects legislation.
The Act requires meaningful consultation with Indigenous peoples, both in the process of determining which projects are in our collective interests and in the development of the conditions for those projects going forward.
First Nations leaders had expressed worry the new law allows energy and infrastructure projects to be approved before Indigenous consultation. Carney says Bill C-5 is designed to connect and transform the national economy as it faces trade threats from the U.S. He also says Indigenous economic growth is at the center of the new framework. The government plans to hold similar meetings with Inuit and Métis leadership in the coming weeks. The Trump administration is under mounting pressure to release more of the so-called Jeffrey Epstein files. Many Trump supporters have long called for documents from the investigation into the late convicted sex offender to be made public. As the CBC's Katie Nicholson reports, the U.S. president's recent efforts to quell the furor aren't working.
Despite President Donald Trump's fervent wishes, the furor over the decision to not release any more files from the federal investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein isn't dying down. Yesterday, he criticized people who were calling for more disclosure or for Attorney General Pam Bondi to be fired, calling them weaklings, and suggested he didn't want their support anymore. Then he went on to say this.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net, and so they try and do the Democrats' work.
The White House press secretary was asked today what specifically Trump meant by that word hoax.
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency.
The problem is, while Democrats are making political hay over this controversy, the loudest voices are coming from Trump's own supporters. Far-right figures like Laura Loomer and Alex Jones. Elon Musk has been using his platform as well to hammer away at the administration. One Republican representative is even working with Democrats to force a House vote to release the files. It's playing out prominently as well on cable news, even late-night comedy shows. And a Reuters Ipsos poll has now found that 69% of Americans think the government is hiding Epstein's alleged client list, something the DOJ says simply does not exist. This all blew up last week when the DOJ and the FBI released a memo saying they wouldn't release any more files from the sex trafficking investigation into the disgraced financier. Many Trump voters believe that a cabal of wealthy elites are involved in a global pedophile ring, and Epstein is a key figure. They supported Trump in part because they believed he would release the documents that would prove these theories. Now many say they feel betrayed. One potential off-ramp for the president, suggested by some Republicans, is for Trump to appoint a special counsel to look into the matter. Today, the White House said that's not something the president will be doing. And so the questions and the outrage continue. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
The Syrian government says it has reached a new ceasefire with leaders of the Druze religious minority. It comes a day after Israel launched airstrikes on the Syrian Defense Ministry in Damascus. The CBC's Sasha Petrusik is in Jerusalem with more.
The ceasefire continued in Sweda, the province in the far south of Syria, today, but there is still friction that remains, mostly between two minorities there, the Druze and the Bedouin, which drew in the Syrian security forces as well as Israel. Those Syrian forces pulled out early this morning with the beginning of that ceasefire, but the friction remains between those two minorities and between Syria and Israel. Today, the acting president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, went on television to reassure all minorities in Syria that they are protected. But he also had some tough words for Israel. He said that its actions were the recipe for endless chaos, that there would be large-scale escalation and destabilization for the region if Israel continues carrying out attacks in Syria. The Those attacks that he's referring to were airstrikes on the center of the city yesterday, which were captured on the news and as they landed near the presidential palace and the military headquarters. Now, Israel says it has to take these actions because it wants to protect the Druze minority in Syria.
I don't actually believe the Israeli line that they are intervening in southern Syria in order to support the Druze, as if they have concerns about the Druze. What Israel is looking for, I think, is a fragmented Syria, one which is weak and divided.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a further warning for Syria today. He said he doesn't want to see Syrian forces anywhere south of Damascus, anywhere close to the Israeli border. So there is a tense peace, a tense ceasefire, but there are reports of little flare-ups in that same area. And Israel is watching closely, as are other Arab countries in the area, to see whether Syria is going to be drawn into this conflict, which has already spread from Lebanon all the way down to Yemen, including, of course, Gaza. Sasha Petrusek, CBC News, Jerusalem.
A somber anniversary was marked in eastern Ukraine. It is the 11th anniversary of the shooting down of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 that killed all 298 people on board. People gathered in the Russian-controlled region of Donetsk to pay tribute. A 24-year-old Canadian man from Ajax, Ontario, was one of the victims. The passenger jet was bound for Kuala Lumpur in July of 2014 when it was shot down. Pro-Russian separatists were fighting with Ukrainian forces at the time. Last week, the European Court of Human Rights ruled unanimously that Russia was responsible for the downing of MH17. The top human rights court also ruled that Moscow had repeatedly violated human rights in Ukraine. Scientists in the UK say an experimental IVF technique is allowing babies to avoid inheriting devastating genetic diseases from a parent. It involves using the DNA from 3 people. But as the CBC's Anna Cunningham reports, questions about safety and ethics remain.
The 8 healthy babies born through this process carry 0.1% of their DNA from the second woman. It is a permanent change that will be passed down through the generations. Mitochondrial disease can lead to brain damage, developmental delay, muscle wasting, heart failure and blindness. The scientists behind this research say it's a real game changer.
So we remove the nuclear DNA from the patient's egg and transplant that into the fertilised egg from a donor that's had its nuclear DNA removed. After the procedure, the embryos are left to develop on, and we check them at various different time points to make sure they're developing normally.
10 years ago, the UK became the first country to introduce laws allowing the creation of babies with DNA from 3 people.
You now have an option that allows you to have children that are genetically your own, but without the risk of passing on that mitochondrial disease.
The parents of the 8 babies have chosen to remain anonymous, but these statements have been released. The mother of a baby girl saying, after years of uncertainty, this treatment gave us hope, and then it gave us our baby. We look at them now, full of life and possibility, and we're overwhelmed with gratitude. Science gave us a chance. Now, for those considering having a family, in the knowledge they are a genetic carrier, it's also given them hope.
They have now created this ability, this opportunity to go through mitochondrial donation that would allow me to have healthy biological children. Being given that opportunity is so incredibly important because I would love to have my own children.
This process is prohibited under the Assisted Human Reproduction Act in Canada, but back in 2015, when it came into law in the UK, scientists at the University of Alberta questioned then if it was time to change the law. For some, there remain concerns about so-called genetically modified designer babies, but British scientists argue this proves the first real hope of breaking the cycle of an inherited condition. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
Nearly a year after wildfires decimated parts of Jasper National Park in Alberta, some campgrounds there have reopened, but with a striking new look. Once surrounded by dense trees, the sites now sit in the open, exposed terrain. Natasha Reeb shows us how Jasper's camping experience has changed.
It is radically changed in terms of the viewscapes, and the camping experience itself is quite different from what people would have experienced previously. We are advising people to plan ahead for their camping experience. There's little tree cover that remains in Wapiti campgrounds.
This is one of Jasper's biggest and most popular campgrounds, nearly a year after wildfire ripped through sections of the national park. Many trees left standing had to be removed for safety reasons.
Well, there's no privacy, that's true. But if you talk to the people, if you walk around, everybody says hello to you, good night or good morning. And that tells you that we are here to support. Because we're here, there's no trees, there's nothing, but we are here.
Normando comes here with her family every year. It's their favorite site at Wapiti Campground. This year is an adjustment.
It's definitely like more windy because there's like no trees, and we couldn't like put up hammocks or anything, and it was kind of a disappointment not to see squirrels or bears or that much animals besides crows. It was definitely different from when I came here last time.
Trees on the mountain slopes around Wapiti loom like charred matchsticks. The landscape takes this family off guard, even though they're from California and no strangers to wildfire in the past several years.
I think it's more devastating than what I heard. You know, just I think to be in that you really see and witness what has happened versus just what the news has said.
Crews have been clearing debris around the national park since last fall. Now, 30% of Wapiti, about 120 of the 400 sites here, are available for campers. Nearby Whistler's is also slim on trees but fully open.
We've been coming to the same campground and the same loop for the last 4 or 5 years, so it's nice it's still here.
Trailers checking out in the morning leave the treeless park looking even more empty. But Parks Canada says Wapiti has been mostly full in July. And if you are searching for privacy, other campgrounds in the park are still fully forested. Natasha Reeb, CBC News, Jasper.
Canada's Wonderland, located north of Toronto, has just opened its newest roller coaster. The Alpen Fury is the longest, tallest, and fastest coaster in the country, reaching speeds of 115 kilometers per hour. Mercedes Gaston Bide went for a ride to check it out.
We love Alpen Fury! If you're a fan of a double barrel roll, Alpen Fury might just need to make your bucket list this summer. The roller coaster is Canada's Wonderland's newest and most sought-after attraction.
The launch was it was a 10 out of 10. I've been on all the rides here, best one by far.
This is my first ever big roller coaster, and I found it really fun. It just kicks you off, and then you really don't have time to think about it.
Now, I had a chance to ride this thing not once, but twice earlier. I'm gonna try so hard not to swear. This ride is fast. We're talking speeds of up to 115 kilometers per hour, but it feels even faster. Double, triple barrel rolls, hovering upside down for what feels like an eternity. The ride holds no mercy, sending you on your first launch just seconds after it starts, propelling you inside the mountain and shooting back up like a whip. It's not like typical roller coasters like the Leviathan or Behemoth that wind you up slowly to a stiff peak and shoot you down using momentum. Magnets along the track of this ride keep you flying forward through the end. What just happened? What just happened? I know, it looks like I was having a heart attack. It may have been bordering on that, and I did walk away with a stiff neck after the second go. But this ride delivers thrill, speed, and adrenaline in a way riders won't soon forget.
I had so much fun of it. One of my top 10 roller coasters.
Like, it was so fun. Definitely 10 out of 10 recommend. This is the best ride in all Wonderland.
I think it's going to be like the top ride in the park for a while.
Canada's Wonderland is open with regular hours until early September. So if you're looking to try the ride before the season ends, pile the family in the car and don't eat too much for breakfast. Mercedes Gaston Bide, CBC News, Vaughan.
Yeah, no thanks. Well, Canadian soccer player Olivia Smith has scored a world record deal with English Premier club Arsenal.
It's a privilege and an honor. Everything that they've accomplished is just so massive, and for me to now be a part of that, I'm very excited.
The club scooped up the 20-year-old from Liverpool for $1.84 million. That makes Smith the most expensive signing in women's soccer history. Smith is Canada's youngest international player. The forward made her debut on the world stage at the age of 15. Since then, Smith has quickly risen at major soccer clubs in Portugal and the UK. Canada's main stock index was up more than 200 points to cap off Thursday's trading session, helped by strength in the technology sector, while U.S. stock markets also climbed. Here's a look at the numbers as we head to break.
This weather update is brought to you by Access Wellness Nova Scotia. Book your appointment today for free, confidential mental wellness support.
All right, one last look at the weather. And Jay, you're saying we've got one more muggy night and then things start to cool down.
Yeah, still, that heat warning should end through the overnight hours. You may see it into the early morning hours tomorrow. Then it ends, and that's because we have not just muggy conditions tonight, Amy, but unsettled conditions, as well as that cold front will be working from west to east across the province. So we can see by 7 a.m. you've already got the showers kind of easing, becoming lighter into the South Shore. Already seeing some more moderate pockets of rain. Could be some thunder boomers embedded in here too, as we look towards the Halifax area, up as we look towards Wolfville, east towards Truro, and then later in the morning, still looking at those thunderstorms, even into the afternoon for folks into Cape Breton before finally that ridge of high pressure starts to build in. It will be blustery, that northwest wind that follows the thunderstorms and the showers, but that sees the sky clearing and sees that humidity, more importantly, clearing out, which will make for a much more comfortable day. So maybe a little bit of an early wake-up call. You set the alarm for 8 a.m., lucky if you do, by the way. That's way later than in my household. But 7 a.m., you could be looking at a natural alarm clock in the form of a few rumbles of thunder, some moderate pockets of rain. We'll see that wind become more westerly towards the noon hour for the Halifax area. Showers will be easing. Breaks of sunshine become more frequent. And I think by late afternoon, starting to lean more towards mainly sunny conditions. That northwesterly wind, though, will be 15 to 30, gusts over 40 possible, but ushering in cooler, drier air, setting us up for a sunny and seasonal, much more comfortable Saturday. And I know we don't like to see rain creeping into the forecast over the weekend too often, and there is a chance for some late-day rain on Sunday. Just looking at some rainfall observations outside of the Halifax area, we've been looking at a lot of the province just very dry, the grass very crunchy, and I know tough conditions for our growers. So I think that rain late Sunday will be a welcome thing as well, in addition to the cooler temperatures. And man, oh man, it'll be nice to say goodbye to that abundant humidity.
Yeah, some good news all around. All right, thank you, Jay. Well, Government House in Charlottetown is once again opening its doors for tours this summer. This year, an array of period costumes are on display, styled after fashions from 1864, when representatives from the province of Canada, or present-day Ontario and Quebec, met with those from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island to discuss a political union.
Welcome to Government House.
Bienvenue à Maison du Gouvernement.
The House, as you may know, belongs to the province, but it is the home of the Lieutenant Governor. And the Lieutenant Governors in the past have agreed to open their house to the public for visits during the summer. So it's open usually from July until the end of August, Monday to Fridays, 10 to 3. Up until 10 years ago or so, we would have summer exhibitions in what is called the Lieutenant Governor's office. This year, the current Lieutenant Governor, His Honor Wassim Salamoun, decided to revive the tradition.
What's in the office is the collection of period costumes from 1864. 1 men's outfit and 6 ladies' outfits. They've got full hoop skirts, some larger, some smaller, depending on whether they be working around the house for the day or going out to a ball, full public, display. The majority are from my personal collection, and 1 piece belonged to Her Honor Dorothy Lewis for the 150th anniversary celebrations of the founding of Canada. And it is a beautiful 2-piece fitted bodice outfit and a lovely cameo at the neck.
Charlottetown is very viewed as the birthplace of Confederation, and this is where the famous picture of the Fathers of Confederation was taken, in front of the front porch. So this is showing them what the Fathers of Confederation saw when they visited the island.
This dress I made for my niece. It took about 2.5 weeks to make all together, a lot of handwork on it. Beautiful embellishment here of hand-tatted lace, an overskirt, and flaring underskirts underneath that, lovely pagoda sleeves. And so when you see these garments, then, well, now this is what they would have wore when they were back here, and then they see the beautiful big drawing room, and they could just picture one of those gowns and a woman sitting there having tea with a friend, or a fancy ball or something, and imagine them swirling around and how the hoops would have puffed out the dresses, and how it just adds to the imagination of the whole event and tour.
Beautiful. And that is it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.